Hello, everyone. Welcome to my first ever game jam I hosted. I've been wanting to do like a live stream for a while, so I thought I would do a test run, and it's pre-recorded, but I wanted to go through and just play some games and talk through this awesome game jam that I got to host. And I was really surprised. There were actually 8 entries in this one. There were 9, one was spam, but we had, I forget if it was 20 or 22 people signed up. So I was thinking like 10% might be 2 entries. So I was absolutely surprised by the incredible response that I got to this. So if you submitted a game to the jam, I'm going to be playing your game today. I want to talk through these, and I really just want to show off the incredible thing that the community did here. You may notice on the Game Jam page, there is a cover image here. This was really cool. I started hosting this jam. I went to a few communities I'm in and shared links and said, hey, this is a topic I want to explore through video games. Would you be interested in making parables? And the first thing that happened is somebody reached out and said, hey, can I make a cover image for this? So right at the beginning, I was hosting a jam, and it wasn't just me. It was us, and it was so cool to have that immediately happen. So this is ideally going to be a recurring jam. I really like the idea of doing this again. But I decided to not just make a jam about parables, but this year really take a specific theme. So the theme was going to be the kingdom of the heavens. There's this phrase all throughout the New Testament, and Jesus uses to start a whole bunch of parables where he says, the kingdom of the heavens is like this. And so it's a comparison he makes. And so there's a question here of what is the kingdom of the heavens? We'll jump into that in a bit. But then also, what is the kingdom of the heavens like? So why don't we just, I guess, jump in with the first one, and then we'll build up from there. This one starts automatically by the looks of it. Okay, so this one says it's resurrected and refurbished for the jam. So there are a whole bunch of games here, and this one is not quite as directly applicable to the theme, but maybe it's not a parable. It certainly is at least a proverb. Don't judge by appearances, I guess. So yeah, based on appearance, eliminate 4 people that you see, assign them in 4 to positions in your new colony. Good person in the world. Okay. So we're judging by appearances. I didn't think this through. My camera's in front of a couple of these. So if I click on... Oh, did I just kill someone? Okay. We have... Oh, now it tells you who they are. That was Joseph Stalin. Killed millions. Yeah, you can be... Oh, they like that. Minister of Science. We're doing good. Nobel Peace Prize. Increase the food supply. Art? Oh, that was Hitler. Cool. We'll make you the Prime Minister. Yeah, that's great. Tesla, inventor, finance. Okay. So, I think... Okay, negative 10% chance of survival. Make you fine arts. That seems very useless position for you. World peace. Guess that. Killed millions. Give you science. Oh no, that's good. Let's see what happens if you... Then you can put people in the wrong roles, so I want to see 5%. Okay, I think we survived, and then you launch. Okay, so yeah, and again, it's not as directly applicable as I think some of the other games will be, but it was reworked for the jam, which is fun. I think, yeah, I thought that was a well made. I mean, you've got a volume slider. That is something most games miss. Yeah, so that's cool. I'm gonna jump in next to a game that I am quite familiar with because I actually helped work on. This is our submission, and this was a game based on the parable of the sower. So this is maybe a good opportunity to start talking about the kingdom of the heavens, this theme that I chose for the jam as a whole. All these parables are going to start with the phrase, the kingdom of the heavens is like. And Jesus, actually, in Gospel of Luke, he shows up, and the first thing he says to begin his public ministries, he says, repent because the kingdom of the heavens have come near. There's this excitement of there's a new thing happening in the world through him. And so, going all the way back to the beginning of the story, God created us to be with him, and there was this unity of uh, heaven, the way that this ideal, utopian world that God created, and earth, this place of raw potential, but also danger. If you read in Genesis, it talks about, there's these wild and waste places, but God creates this beautiful garden where he puts humanity, and he says your job is to take this world, this raw potential, and bring this beauty into it. And he also gives us a choice. He says, do you want to trust me, or do you want to decide for yourself what is right and what is wrong? And as the story goes, the first thing we do is we decide, we disobey God, and we say, I want to be able to make these decisions for myself. And so the first sin, in the Bible is disobedience. You might go, wow, that doesn't sound like a big deal. And the second one is murder. And that's not, it's not just like a slippery slope argument. That is actually, the wages of sin is death. Is the way the Bible phrases it. It says, when you start with something small like lying, you always end up becoming going back to that last game, the Stalin or the Hitler or these people. That's the natural bent of humanity, and I think a lot of us think of ourselves much more highly than that. Of if I was given unlimited power, it wouldn't corrupt me, and history proves otherwise. But that's the bad news, is that every one of us has decided that we're going to choose for ourselves what's right and what's wrong, and ultimately, when we do that, we destroy ourselves, we destroy each other, we make the world a broken place. And so Jesus came and he said, "There's going to be a restoration. This kingdom that you were separated from, this beauty and this perfection, I'm bringing it back down to you, and you have an invitation to enter and be a part of this." And so this first parable here is the parable of the sower. And Jesus, he came and he gave this good news, and he said, "I'm coming to save you from these these decisions you're making and the consequences of those decisions." He says, "I'm here to save you, but you have to hear this invitation and decide for yourself what you want to do with it." And so there are multiple soils. The first one is the path. The seed that falls on the path gets... and so there's seed that falls on the path. Jesus says, there's an enemy who doesn't want you to hear this good news. And so when the seed lands in these places, the birds come, they take it away, and nothing comes of it. After that, there is good soil. There's rocky soil, right? And in this soil, it's shallow. There is no root. And so people hear this and they go, wow, this Jesus guy sounds awesome. And there's an excitement, there's an initial burst of energy or commitment, but there's no root. And so when life gets hard, you fall away. And then the third one was the weeds. And the idea of the weeds is that there's so many concerns and troubles in this life. And when the seed lands in the soil, it looks good for a while, but the weeds grow up and they choke it out. There's no, this message isn't received, ultimately. But there's a final soil, and that is the good soil. And when this message hits the good soil, it grows and it sprouts and it bears fruit. So you see your score and your points to send. Each time a seed hits the good soil, it's 30, 60, or 100 times what was sown. So it's this beautiful idea that we are given the opportunity for abundance and for an abundant life. And when we hear this and say, yes, this is what I want, and follow through, that there's a beautiful production that happens, and the world is made more beautiful through it, and not just a little bit, but an abundant harvest. So that's this one. I just wanted to also say, I mentioned I worked on this game. I did some programming for it. You know, I spent like 4 hours on a Discord call. Really, this game was our. I worked with an artist for the first time. That's why this is the most beautiful game I've ever worked on. Um, but it was really cool. I was working with this guy Alan, and we jumped on a Discord call right away. And you know, he had like a little bit of an accent, and we were having a little trouble trying to understand each other. But like we worked through it, and you know, we were able to make a game. But we get to the end of the game jam, we're just chatting, and he goes like, "Yeah, I've never done like a video call in English before." I was just like, "Wow!" Like making video games is so scary and so hard, and to have somebody show up and just be like, I'm not going to let any obstacle get in my way. I'm going to make something incredible, no matter how hard it is. It was just really inspirational to see. So I was really just blessed to have a team like that, because I certainly didn't choose my team. It was kind of we fell together, and you know, he was looking for a team, and I was like, oh, we could use an artist. Let's just try this. And it was really an awesome experience to be able to work with someone like that. So looking forward to continuing to collaborate more, you know, not just with him, but it was a really cool experience getting to make this game. So that was ours. That was Spreading the Seeds was the name he chose for this game. And I will link all these. You can play them down below. I think ratings will be done by the time this video goes live, but either way, you can you can take a look. So yeah, that was the first one. Next up, we have the Parable of the Lost Coin. This is a really encouraging parable to me. Jesus, you know, in the last parable, we talk about Jesus came and he had this message that he wants people to know that there is this abundant life they can take a part of. Well, a lot of people are in a place where they feel like they can't accept this message for one reason or another, or they've just never heard, and they're living far away from it. And so let's move. And so this parable is, oh, that's fun. That's a little bit of an issue. When you move the arrow keys up and down, you it scrolls. Anyway, oh, okay, that's a coin. Yeah, so this idea of there are multiple parables. It wasn't, you know, the lost coin was just one of them, but it was about looking for things that are lost. And the idea is that God isn't going to stop pursuing you. He's not ever going to stop trying to offer the abundant life that he wants you to have. And so there's this beautiful idea of, or this image of somebody, a grandma with, I don't know if that's her son, I'm not sure what that is, but this beautiful image of somebody that is willing to turn their house upside down, looking for something of value. And so in this parable, it's a lost coin. There's a much more well-known parable about a lost sheep. Okay, click to, oh, that button doesn't work. Okay, we're gonna reload it. There's another one of a lost sheep, you know, instead of a lost coin. But yeah, multiple. Oh, I have less coins to look for this time. That's interesting. But all the parables are saying something similar, that there's a God who desperately wants to know you and is continually offering, and not just offering, but willing to go, and wherever you've gone, whatever you've done, you know, he's willing to come find you. And I think that that's a really beautiful image. So, but yeah, in this one, there is a person sweeping for coins, and I'll see if I can find the last one. So I think what's happening... Oh, found one. That gave me 10 seconds. One. Ah, perfect. We made it. I think what's happening. Ah, they used emojis, and those don't always render properly. Okay, next up, the parable of the camel. Mash the space key. So this one, I love that. There's a camel going. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Okay. So yeah, he actually has or I don't actually know who this is. This person has the text of the parable here, right in the game, and this is a really interesting one because I just mentioned Jesus came because he wants to give people abundant life, but there's a catch. I've heard a lot of people talk like this Jesus came to give you a free gift, and that's true, but it's like somebody coming to give you a wedding ring. Yes, it is free. No, you don't have to pay for it. No, you should not expect it to not matter. It's going to change everything if you accept this gift. And so that's what this parable really gets at. So Jesus started on his way, and a man ran up to him and fell on his knees before him. Good teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Why do you call me good? Jesus answered, no one is good except God alone. So he's questioning his theology a little bit, saying, why do you call me good? You know the commandments. You don't shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony, you shall not defraud, honor your father and mother. So that was the Old Testament, a set of rules people were asked to follow. And he says, teacher, all these things I've kept since I was a boy. Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said. Go, sell everything you have, give to the poor, and then you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. At this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. Jesus looked around and said to Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, how hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. The disciples were amazed at his words, but Jesus said again, children, how hard it is to enter the kingdom of God. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. The disciples saw and were amazed and said to one another, who then can be saved? Jesus looked at them and said, with man it is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Um, I had I didn't think my camera's in the way, so I kind of had to do that. And also, yeah, there was a interesting like a historical contextual thing where some interpreters say that the eye of a needle was actually like a small doorway. So I think that's what they're going for in this. But that camel's just fun. I love the sprites being compressed. Yeah, so that idea that on one hand there is this beautiful invitation for everyone. There's no one who is disqualified, but on the other hand, it is very hard for someone who is rich, and really what that means is someone who thinks that that what they have is valuable, to give that up, right? In the same way that if someone offers you a wedding ring, but you have a life and a career and all these things outside of that marriage, maybe you don't want to accept that gift. Maybe you don't believe that it's actually better. So that's the difficulty in the good news that yes, Jesus has an amazing gift to offer people, but that gift isn't for everyone. And he actually repeatedly encourages people to count the cost and to go, hey, are you sure that you want to follow me? Because you would be happier living your own life and making your own decisions than you would pretending to be my disciple. Go all in or don't go in at all. And so that's really what this parable is about. Are you willing to go through the difficult thing? And if you are, God makes it possible. So yeah, that was a cool one. I really liked. Yeah, I just love that the sprite that sprite work. Okay, this is interesting. So this one, theological ramble. Christianity, heaven and hell, whether queerness is a sin. Okay. um, I don't see. Um, Go back to the ratings. Okay, so this is based on the wheat and the tares, which is a there's an interesting set of parables here. They are about the people who have honestly chosen to follow God. So like in the last parable, this idea of the people who said, you know what, I'm gonna give up everything. I'm gonna accept this invitation and I'm gonna accept this abundant life, which is a very difficult thing to do. And then there's a lot of people who, in Jesus's day, they were called Pharisees, right? They were the religious leaders. They were the people who murdered him, like the people who wanted to have their religion without having to give up anything for it. And so Jesus calls these people in this parable the weeds. He said that there's this field, right? The kingdom of the heavens is also known as the church, right? It's this the all Christians together, right, fall into this group. But he says within this field that was sown, there are a lot of people who aren't actually what they claim to be. And so the context for this parable is there's this plant called, I think it was Daryl something. So somebody will correct me, but it was there's this weed that it looked exactly like wheat when it was growing up. And it was only when it started to bear fruit that you could tell it was not the same thing. And so this is actually I believe it was punishable by death in Roman society. Like you don't sow this in someone else's field. It was a very it was vandalism, but it was a punishable offense. It was something that you do not do this to somebody. But so in this parable, Jesus talks about that this happened to the church and to Christianity. And so I've actually struggled a lot. I've done 2 videos so far where I've identified myself as a Christian game developer. And I'm comfortable using that word and that language because it is the language the Bible uses. But I've gotten comments on both these videos that are like, are you, there's like Christianity sucks, right? And they have some whatever, oh, the wars and the crusades or the way people treat others. And the problem is I always agree with the thing that this person says. I'm like, yeah, it does suck. But that doesn't mean that Jesus isn't worth following. And not to fully excuse, there are every true follower of Jesus screws up at times too. But there is definitely a lot of weeds in the church, and there are a lot of people who only hurt others and who never love like Jesus loved. So there's this. It's really interesting. I find some strange comfort in it, but we'll see what Bez says about this. So start reading. Okay. That was that wasn't really a game. It was I guess more of a slideshow. So I'm probably not going to I'll probably fast forward through that in the actual footage. But yeah, it was honest. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I guess the question that Bez asked here was, am I a wheat or a weed? And I thought it was an interesting question because they also said I've chosen to walk away from my faith. I'm not a Christian. So um I don't I think the parable is about people who pretend, not not people who are honest in their choice. But there is one thing Jesus said is you need to count the cost. You need to consider, is Jesus worth more than everything to you? And that is it really sucks because in our society today, not everyone is asked that question. Christianity has been a cultural thing. There's the Christian religion, which is not always the same as following Jesus. And yeah, there are wheat and weeds in the field, and it makes it really messy because the point of the parable is you can't tell the difference. And looking from the outside, it's like, wow, Christians suck, and it's like, how much of that is people who are truly chasing Jesus, and how much of that is people who want a religion that makes them feel right. And so, yeah, it's a it's a difficult thing. I really I really do resonate with that though of that sometimes feeling of going, do I belong here? And where I've landed with it is going, I'm following Jesus no matter what religious people say. And ultimately it was Jesus died at the hands of religious people. It was the people who owned Judaism and who said this is our religion and we get to decide what it means, who were the most offended by Jesus. They were the only people he ever fought with. He ran into like a woman caught in adultery, and his response was to say, "You who is without sin, throw the first stone." Like he never told her her actions were good or appropriate or that God approved of that behavior, but he told her her life was valuable when all the religious people said it wasn't. So it was, yeah, really interesting, just seeing Jesus' approach to the world. But it led him to the cross, right? And he was killed by religious people who couldn't stand the fact that um, he called them out on being religious and on not understanding who God actually. And so I feel that, but yeah, too. I don't I don't know if, yeah, Des was going to watch this video, but if so, I it's okay to count the cost. And while I hope to see you in God's kingdom one day, um, the reality is you need to consider what is important to you. Um, and that is something that is unfairly put on, like this was about queer people. Certain people groups are forced to count that cost, and other people groups get away without doing that. And so I'm not going to say, hey, all of these lifestyles are acceptable before God. That's God's job to decide what is acceptable and not. What I will say is many things that we let go of and say it's not a big deal are not acceptable. And we should be way more honest about those things instead of spending time only caring where culture aligns with the Bible. And so, yeah, fighting culture wars over topics of sexuality while going, it doesn't matter if you respect your parents. That's one of the Ten Commandments too. Right? God says, don't commit adultery, and he says, honor your father and mother. And he says, you cannot love, Jesus says, you cannot love God and love money. You have to pick one or the other. And we don't, we choose to ignore those things. And so then it becomes uniquely unfair that we have, I've seen books of, people who have wrestled through issues of homosexuality and have come on the other side Christian, and they are stronger because they've gone through that struggle. But they've been forced to answer a question that everyone should be answering, and it is really unfortunate uh, that we've created this world where so many people get away with pretending to be Christian, and get away with being weeds. But yeah, to this question, I don't think you're a weed. I don't think you're a weed either. I think you've chosen to not be in this field, and that is Jesus actually says that that's wise. He says you should consider if you're going to build a tower, consider if you can afford it. If you're going to go to war, consider if you can win the battle. And he says, before you follow me, consider what it's going to cost. And that's not a message that anyone likes to say. Christians want to be like, hey, you don't want to go to hell. Everybody wants to go to heaven. But ultimately, it's a question of, I love this way C.S. Lewis put it. He said, either you will say to God, thy will be done, or God will say to you, thy will be done. It's the separation of people who they choose what they want out of this life. I want to be my own master. And people who say, you know what, I don't think I'm good at making these. And so I've fully submitted myself to what God wants for me. All I wanted out of life was like the American dream, right? Like I just, whatever, money and happiness and like all that stuff. And God came to me about 13 years ago and was just like, I want you in full-time vocational ministry. And I was like, uh, but I want to be an engineer. Um, but I've chosen repeatedly um, to listen to what God's calling me to do and to do it. And so, like right now, I'm in this ridiculous place where I am entering the video game industry, and I'm doing this full time. And it's just like I should be so anxiety ridden because this is a terrible idea, but it's where God led me. So. How can I be any safer doing the things that make sense by the world standards versus um, my dad owns the planet and he called me out on an adventure and I'm running with him. And I will say from my experience, just personally, it is better. It is better, but it is not easy. And I don't blame anyone for honestly making that decision. And truly, I would rather you make a decision to live your life for yourself than making a decision to pretend to be something you're not. So yeah, that was that one. That was a little more difficult, but I did really appreciate that that was still honest. I don't think every one of these submissions needs to be like pro Christianity. I think God can handle our questions, and so I appreciate that. Um, okay, so the next one, seek and save, has to do with okay, and saving the lost. So I thought I saw. I looked through these before. Yeah, yeah. The lost sheep, the lost coin, and the prodigal son. So these are related to the lost coin parable we already looked at. That Jesus wants. He's not going to stop pursuing you. He wants to give you this gift, and wherever you go, he's going to follow. And so the interesting thing, a few months ago, a group of monsters raiding our village, the town guard, we fought strong and won. However, one of our archers turned tail and ran. He left his post undefended. It almost cost us direly. Since lived in the outskirts of town, fearing the hatred of the guard over his cowardice. There's a pack of jackals coming. They can't get past our walls. We are safe, but he may die. We debated whether we should send someone to bring him safely to the town. And the King's Shield says we must protect all our citizens, even the poor and hated, and went out to save him. Coming home for dinner. So, really interesting, actually, that idea. Okay, so he's the archer, and I'm the arrow keys and shift. Okay, and we're okay. Game about punching dogs. I think it's really interesting that this parable isn't just, or this interpretation of the parable isn't just about somebody who is, lost. It's about somebody who feels like, kind of similar to the last one, someone who feels like they don't belong because of the choices they've made, the way people will perceive them. So I guess this guy with the bow, he is an outsider, and an invisible wall, dog. And so yeah, this guy's an outsider, and he feels like he maybe doesn't even deserve to live. And so it's interesting because this isn't just a story of we're seeking and saving this guy because he got lost. It's because he feels like he's unworthy of being a part of this society, of even of life itself. And so yeah, I think that's a good reminder that this is I don't know if the guy with the shield, if this is like a Jesus character or what that is, but yeah, that idea that everyone there is no such thing as too far gone. There is nothing you can do to lose this this gift that Jesus gives, because the gift itself is it is so much greater than even the worst crimes. Anything you can do, the mercy is greater. And I think that's oh, that might be all the dogs. I think there's a door. Yeah, so I think that's a cool story and reminder of that. the only sense in which you can be too far gone is if you decide that you're too far gone and you don't want to be saved. And so this is an interesting story that goes, yeah. The story wasn't really in the game, I noticed, but the game was punching dogs. The game, but I really like. I mean, the art's really nice. I don't actually know if you can even die. What happens if I get attacked? Um, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. That was cool. So that was really good art. That was the seek and save. And let's see, what do we have? We only have 2 left now. So the next one is going to be the lost coin. So this was the kind of thing. We already discussed this parable a bit. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. You're looking. Oh, and you can open drawers. Okay. So we are looking for a lost coin in the house. So yeah, this is just that another story about the value of a person, value of and really it's not just value in the sense of like, hey, you're worth something, you've done this work and that means that you're valuable. It's really the value is God created you and he loves you, and so your value is inherent, right? It's you don't have to do anything. Did I find the coin? No. Those are pills. Yeah, that this value is inherent. It's not something you earn. And there's actually I've been finding as I've been, trying to jump into this career as a game developer, which is terrifying, and then even to the game jam. I mean, there are games that are better than the game I made, and it's like, man, there's so many people who are better than me. But going, you know what? My value isn't in the work I do. My value is that I was created by God who loves me. And so that is actually so freeing, I found. Just as I'm continuing to work and to learn and to grow, it's like, hey, I have I'm not working, to earn my place in the world. I already have been given that. It's free. And I'm doing everything I do as an expression of the love I've been given. And so it's really been freeing just to be able to live that way. And, that's again, that's kind of my story is that I really believe, I am here because I have been called here. And, there's an invitation to be a part of something amazing. And I don't know where Christian video games will go. That there's a lot of open questions still, but just I think there's a lot of opportunities, and seeing that there's an invitation that I get to. Goodness, I just noticed I've been talking for 2 minutes. There's 20 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to find this. How big is this house? Oh, this is Luigi's mansion, I think. Okay, goodness. Oh, and there's another side. Okay. It is like Luigi's mansion. There's a different staircase. I'm just realizing how big this is. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just I really wanted to be able to just host a jam and explore some of these questions and topics. I actually was talking earlier about, I wanted to do like a lot of videos exploring these, intersection of faith and games. And I've been finding as I've been really learning and listening, and, lots of podcasts and lots of, other people have said so much already. So I actually found that, oh, there's a basement now. I've been finding that there's so much that's already been said. So I've kind of been questioning what do I really need to say, if anything? Who's already doing this work? And kind of just waiting to find where my place is in all this. But yeah, it is really cool to go. I'm finding my place, but I'm not looking for my purpose. Like I already have value, and it's not found in this work. So it's freeing then to be able to make games not as a in as a desire, you know, to be valued, but making games as an expression of the value I already have and who I already am. So yeah, it's I don't know if I'm gonna find this coin though. Not to question, you know, this too much, but if your house is this big, I don't know if you'd be looking for a coin. I know that's the parable. I think the woman who lost the coin had a much smaller house. I also think coins were worth a little more back then. You know, I think if I have a mansion like this, I might not be looking for a penny. But I don't know. Oh, we'll find it. This might be another fast forward moment. All right. Game has nice graphics, beautiful lighting. I really I like the atmosphere. I think I'm getting lost already, and I don't think I'm gonna find this coin. So I might I might move on to the last game. But yeah, this is I mean, I like they built a really nice level here. So great job on the. I know they said this is actually their first 3D game. I don't. I say they. I don't even remember if it was one person or a team. I think it was a team. But yeah, this it's really pretty. I like the way that they set up this house. It's just, man, it is a big house, and I don't think I'm gonna find this. Yeah, there's one more game in the jam. This one is Light Runner. This one's interesting. So it's the parable of the 10 virgins, the parable of the talents, and the parable of the wedding feast. So these are, I'll just start the game, but these are 3 parables. So the first one, parable of the 10 virgins. This is a parable about Arrow Moon. Oh, and there is sound. These are orbs you collect? Yeah, you collect. Thing up there. Okay, so the parable of the 10 virgins is a parable about being prepared. And really the idea is, one second. Base to share. Oh, that makes a sound effect. Oh, is that getting lighter? I think the color's changing on that thing in front of me. But so that one's a parable about preparation. So there's this kind of one of those things that made sense in that old society, you know, when Jesus was speaking. But there was a wedding, and there was the groom was going to come, and nobody knew when. So there were 10 virgins that were going to, you know, be a part of this wedding feast. And I guess you think of it like bridesmaids, right? But there were 5 of them were wise, and they had these, you know, these lamps, right, lights, so they could see where they're going, and they had oil for the lamps. And the other 5 were foolish, and they didn't prepare. And so basically in the parable, those who didn't prepare, they missed the wedding. Like they didn't get to be a part of this. And so it was just this cautionary tale of saying, you know, there are these incredible gifts and opportunities that we have, but don't sleep on it, and don't think that you can just kind of go through life without really considering what happens after you die, right? Like, don't think that you can just not think about these things and be okay in the end. So that was that first one. Second one, parable of the talents. That was a parable about so the Greek word talent literally means bag of gold. So it's this master gives his servants, he gives one, I think there's 10, 1, 5, and 1, 2, or 5, 2, and 1 bags of gold. And he says, you know, go out and make make more money, right? Take this abundance I'm giving you and make it even more abundant. And so, kind of like the sower game, right? Throw the seed in the good field and get a 30 times return. But so in this parable, the first two servants, they go out, and each was given according to their ability. So the first two, they go out and they double the money they were given. And when this master comes back, they're commended. He says, "You did a great job." And the servant who was the least trustworthy, right? He was only given one to begin with. He said, "I don't trust my master, so I'm gonna just bury this money in a hole." And he's rebuked for that, and he's told, "You are wicked and lazy because you were given this incredible gift and you did nothing with it." So that's that one. And then the parable of the wedding feast is kind of similar. There are people who are invited to once again a wedding, and the people who are invited decide that they have better things to do, and they don't want to come to the wedding. And so the person throwing this wedding feast decides, you know what? Those who are invited weren't worthy. I'm going to invite literally everyone else. And so this was a parable told against, the nation of Israel when Jesus, was here. That was the people who first received this message of God. They were supposed to share it with the rest of the world, and they really didn't. But Jesus said, "You were invited, but you're not worthy. So I'm going to invite literally everyone else." And so that was the third one. They mentioned all of those, and they do talk down here about the value of sharing. And so I think, go full screen. Whoop! I think I broke it. Oh, okay. Yeah, the value of sharing. So I think that's, I don't know. This is very abstract. I think I'm receiving power from the orbs and sharing it with the thing in front of me. I think is what they're going for, but I don't know. It's a really nice atmosphere. I really like the feel and the vibes behind it. I don't think everything has to be extremely overt, like, the the camel parable. I think this is kind of fun too, of just being like, okay, because that was ultimately the idea behind parables, is there's something you have to chew on and think about, and they don't immediately reveal themselves to you. They take time, and so I think having a I don't even fully know what I'm doing game is fitting for a jam about parables. Oh, I think I won. Did something. Oh, now there's another one. Okay, so I think this repeats. I think they said if you don't, you can lose if you aren't. If you're trying to, I guess share is the word for that, but you don't collect power, I think you actually lose, it said? Let's see. Can't tell. Like, is my light getting dimmer? Maybe a little? I'm just gonna have to look back at the footage later to be like, was mine changing as I'm holding the spacebar and following this thing? Because that one's getting brighter. Okay, yeah, so game about sharing or giving. Oh, yes, I'm getting dimmer. Game over. Okay. Got it. So, okay, yes. A game about being filled, but also... Okay, that's not the best sound. Being filled, but also giving out of the abundance of what you've received. Yeah, I think that's a good way to end it. Thank you so much, everyone who participated. Man, this was, goodness, 50. Hopefully I can edit this down a little. That's way longer than I thought it would be. But yeah, this is my first time ever hosting a game jam. I was really, really happy with the engagement. I mean, look, 8 entries, 50 ratings. Like there's a lot more than I thought. A lot more people jumped in and wanted to make something, and I'm so thankful to all of you who participated. So I hope that was interesting. I hope that wasn't too rambly and boring, but I definitely this combines a lot of things I love, and I wanted to be able to just kind of show off and share a little bit of cool things that have been happening. So I'm gonna be coming back with some other videos. I don't really know what. I'm thinking of actually I've been working on a clicker game on the side, so we'll see. But yeah, this was the Great Parable Game Jam. Ideally, year one. We will see in another 12 months what comes, but I'd love to do this again. And thank you so much, everyone who participated. So that's all I got for today. I will see you guys in the next one.